Hello and welcome to this month's edition of the Whisky Investment Podcast with VCL Vintners. I'm Alwynne Gwilt, whisky journalist. Today I'm joined by Vinay Chavda, head of IT at VCL Vintners. We're going to be exploring the world of digitized environments for the client experience and learning more about the tech behind the scenes of VCL. Vinay, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
So VCL is known for blending tradition with, the modern environment that we're now starting to see happening in the Scotch whisky world or the whisky world in general. Can you explain to listeners a little bit more about why you decided to bring that tech in-house at VCL?
Absolutely. Well, look, I think traditional investment in whisky is relied on pretty outdated processes. Think of things like spreadsheets, paper certificates. And all that. And what we're trying to do at VCL is really modernize that journey, but streamline it for customers in terms of simplicity and accessibility. And similar to what a lot of our investors are looking for in, or what they expect from modern banking systems as well. So that's what we're trying to do.
Okay. So let's dive perhaps a little bit into the investor portal. Can you talk a bit more about that side of things and how it actually works?
Really good question. So our portal is actually at the heart of what we do. It's been built with investors in mind, taking them through that journey, looking at every step in the process to make it simple and easy. But what it does is it allows them to manage their entire investment portfolio at ease, right? From the very beginning to the sign up to agreeing the terms and every step along the way. So it was actually built in that way, and the feedback so far has been incredible just because of the simplicity, the transparency, and the ease of use. So, we're really proud of that so far.
Amazing. It must be so nice to have that feedback coming in and actually knowing what you're doing is assisting your end user.
Absolutely. Because, our clients now vary in age. So it's nice to know that we are building something that's helping all investors.
Yeah, I can imagine. Tech still... I still find myself confused.
Indeed.
By tech, so
Indeed, we all do. And that user journey has been, really important for us.
Absolutely. So VCL has something called Digitize Your Inventory. Can you talk about why you decided to adopt that and how it actually works as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what we're trying to do is bring it to the 21st century. And traditional methods just aren't as thorough as they are now. And by digitizing it, what we're doing is adding it to a blockchain. And that means every cask or everything in our inventory is traceable. And it has its history and its origins reserved as well.
Yeah, that's super important. I always think of, casks magically being found in warehouses in the old days, which could be amazing. You could find a great hidden cask of something, but from an investor perspective, you don't want your cask just disappearing or moving or anything like that. So having that tech must be incredibly helpful. It's
incredibly helpful, and these are real world problems that we are solving by introducing this sort of tech.
Amazing. That's super interesting. It must be very helpful to making sure people are aware of everything that's going on behind the scenes. You recently invested also in something called Proof 8. Can you talk a bit more about that? I've heard it mentioned, but don't know too much about it myself.
Absolutely. Well, look, our directors, Ben Lancaster and Stuart Tom, they saw the long-term potential in Proof 8. And from our side, it's really exciting because we don't just get to modernize the investor's journey, but now all of a sudden we get to modernize the entire workflow or the entire history of a cask from manufacturing to storage, and the investor side as well. So it was a really exciting and innovative step taken to make a bigger impact in our clients and our investors, but the bigger journey of an investment for customers out there.
So it's basically like an end-to-end solution for customers at the end of the day. Very interesting. So you have mentioned, talked a little bit about digital deeds as well. Can you explain what those are and how those work? We're delving deep here.
Look, in its most simplest form, if we think of it as a digital footprint to a cask, it allows us to really look at the origins, where it came from, its journey, its evaluations along time. And it's what makes it really powerful is that this then adds so much trust and credibility to each cask that we own.
Yeah.
And these are some of the bigger benefits to our investors, because it's not just about having this certificate which is up to date as of the time it was made, but now all of a sudden they've got a wealth of information that can be accumulated just by having this digital footprint.
Right. So the digital footprint is almost like providing proof of all the elements that this cask has been through, that it exists, exactly, where it is,
and so much more information than you might typically get just by a traditional paper certificate, right? It opens up so many more doors, and there's even things like modernization. It allows that to happen, because traditionally where you've got a static document and it's only up to date as of the time it was made, all of a sudden now you can add something that might be more valuable in 5 years' time, because technology has developed, priorities have changed, or things like that. So it's amazing what it's going to do in the future, and also what it's doing now.
Yeah, I mean, it is actually kind of mind-boggling to think that you could buy a cask and then not see it for 20 years and just have a piece of paper, but know nothing else about what it's
exactly that. And this is feedback that we've had from some of our clients. Yeah. So it's good to see that we're making some real good progress here.
Yeah, it's having an actual impact in terms of people's experiences, but also, as you say, for the future.
Exactly. Yeah. And what we're also doing, which is quite fundamental, is we're setting standards, right? You know, now people are expecting these things, and we're here to deliver that.
Almost putting a benchmark in place and saying we can achieve this, but we can also overachieve that. But it's almost starting to help set an industry standard of what people should be expecting from the experience overall. Yeah, from Cask investment. You are also using AI technology behind the scenes with your CRM, things like that. Can you talk a bit more about how that is helping your team in the day-to-day, and where AI is kind of fitting into the picture?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, AI is being used in many organizations, and what we're also trying to do here is leverage it in the right way. And our client relations team are now leveraging this to really ensure that we're delivering the best service, we're giving the right information, but ultimately we're also optimizing potential opportunities for our investors, where traditionally someone may have to manually try to work things out. AI is really helping many organizations, not just in the whiskey industry, but helping them to really maximize on people's returns. The opportunities are out there. So it's a really exciting space. And what we're doing right now is just the beginning. There's so much potential ahead.
Yeah. I feel like it's the buzzword of the moment, but it's been talked about for, last few years, but actually the implementation of it is becoming more and more apparent in various organizations.
Absolutely. It's a crucial step for any organization. But in an industry like this, where tech is now sort of leading the forefront, it's important that we as VCL are always exploring new opportunities to really maximize on what we're doing on this side, but also what our investors are getting on the other side.
So obviously technology is at the forefront of everything we are talking about here, and I'm always fascinated. I'm not the most technically minded person out there, and I'm sure some of your investors are really interested in it. Some they're newer to that space. How do you keep the VCL platform very high end from a technical perspective, while still also being accessible for everybody who wants to be using it?
It's all about design. Lots and lots of complicated and clever things can happen behind the scenes, but we obsess over design at VCL. It's all about that customer journey. We keep it simple, clear, and we're always looking at things that we can do to make it better. We constantly are asking our customers for feedback. We actually listen. We try to adapt these changes quite quickly. And this is something that has enabled us to be where we are today. It's not through making our own decisions and sticking by that, but it's also about listening to what people want. They wanted simplicity. They want to be able to see things in an easy to read format. All of these things are things that we're constantly tweaking and doing to make that journey as accessible for every one of our investors out there. Yeah,
for sure. And do you ever get people coming back and say it's a surprise? Do you think, we actually didn't think we needed to shift that? Does that happen? Or is it take a while before you implement anything, I suppose?
Well, we always have to look at the bigger picture of changes that are being requested. But it's important we listen, and that's the starting point, right? Understanding what is being requested, and if it's something that we can do and it has a bigger impact for the wider team or for the wider investors, then it's something that we will really consider. But at the same time, it's the way we've built it so far is really kept it to a minimal from the customer's face. So really the front end is actually quite simple, and this is the key thing here. It's not about all the clever things that's happening behind the scenes, but really keeping it simple, minimalistic, and accessible for as many of our investors on the front end.
Yeah, as possible. So obviously whiskey is a heritage product, right? It has so much story and history behind it, and that is what makes a lot of people fall in love with it from the first place. So whilst obviously technology is important, how do you ensure that you have that technological aspect without losing all of that super important backstory and I guess the soul of whiskey?
So look, I totally agree, and it's one of the things that I love the most about our industry. That history and heritage is crucial, right? And there's actually many investors that make decisions on their investments based on that history and heritage. So it was really important for us to preserve that. Now, you need to understand that technology is just a means to an end.
Right. Okay.
But actually, when you look at it, by digitizing some of the aspects of an investment, you actually get to learn a lot more about the history and heritage, because we can add so much more information to your ownership that you wouldn't typically get on a traditional investment certificate.
Of course, yeah.
Where it came from, how long it's been around for, how the price has fluctuated or changed over the years. And actually, when you think about it, the digitization is actually an amazing tool that complements the history and heritage behind it, because that investor gets an insight into it which they just typically wouldn't otherwise. So it's really exciting, and one of the things, again, like I said, I love the most about being able to sort of see this journey through.
Yeah, I guess it's a bit like going from a solid printed book to an internet page where you can just keep adding more information.
100%.
In a digital environment. You can if you find something new out, that can be added on. You don't have to think, I've now got to do a reprint of this book. It's just, it can keep growing,
and it's dynamic,
it's dynamic, exactly.
So it's not about seeing the last value of something or the last up-to-date information. When you log in today, that is the up-to-date information, right? And that's what makes it suddenly more appealing to many people out there, not just your traditional investors.
So that's the thing I often think about, investments is quite cold. It's got it's worth its value today. It's something different the next day. It kind of loses that soul, and I think that's really amazing that you're actually taking that into consideration when we're looking at the tech side, is that you shouldn't be losing the beautiful stories and history and everything that goes alongside the product, because that is obviously at the end of the day very, very important to the end user. Who would you say is most interested in this technological side, and also is it helping you to reach new demographics, do you think?
Absolutely is your answer. We've seen a huge uptake from younger investors, which is incredibly not just important, but it's fascinating to see, right? Where traditional investments were seen for experienced, long-term investors, the uptake we've had from the young market has really helped us to shape how we are positioning ourselves out there. It's a huge demographic, but there is, it's such a big demographic of people that are looking to diversify their portfolio. And they genuinely do want to invest for their future, and they're looking at alternative means, and this for them is incredible for many reasons. One is that it's digitized, like you said, but secondly, even things that you'd expect, because it's whiskey is typically a long-term investment, the fact that they can easily just check up on their investment, see the value, see the changes, these are all suddenly things that are now becoming more accessible and I'd say more favorable to some investors out there who just want to look at their whiskey investment in a similar way they'd look at their stocks and trades or their banking, investments. So it's incredible to see. I'm really proud that we are leading the way in this market.
Yeah, in this new space. And I guess, we've seen a shift generally in the interest when it comes to whiskey to heritage products to, I guess, that side of it from a consumption perspective. So it's interesting to see the consumer demographic of whiskey, of younger people, maybe enjoying and consuming whiskey on a higher end level. It's interesting that that's also reflected in the investment side as well, from your perspective, and seeing it in your demographics and people actually using the services. Because that's always what I want to know, what's next? What's next for tech at VCL?
Well, look, without going into too much detail, what you do need to know is that we are constantly innovating. We are also looking at that journey and talking to our customers and clients out there. So it's going to be an exciting 12 months ahead, and I'm really excited to be part of that transition. It's going to be an exciting space. I think there's a lot of movement in general in terms of technology in all spaces, but what our investors can be rest assured with is that we are constantly working to make things better, more accessible, more seamless, so that people can make better investment decisions, but also see what they've got and be proud of everything that they've built up so far. It's good.
And I guess enjoy it along the way as
well.
Enjoy
it along the way,
yes. As you say, a cold 100%. Interface or anything. It's a way to experience it in a more positive environment as well. So
indeed.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, Vinay, thank you so much for joining me. It's been really fascinating chatting with you today. And I look forward to, seeing the next iteration of tech that's happening.
Looking forward to it.
You guys.
Enjoy.
Thank you.